All right, hi, I'm Alex Belinsky. I'm the founder of Lifey. I'm here with my good friend, Clint Pulver. He is an amazing public speaker, entrepreneur, author, writing a few books right now, singer,
Alright.
actor, drummer, surgeon,
Oh,
pilot,
geez, no. Is this
uh,
lover of cotton candy? That's great.
lover of cotton candy, Christian. He's awesome. So we're going to start this out with doing a quick rapid fire survey. And if I ask a question that's weird, whatever, we can skip it. And then we'll dive more into your story. So, okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So, Clint, what's one of your favorite hobbies?
Flying.
Flying.
I love flying. Yeah.
What's a hidden talent you have that not many people know about?
A hidden talent that nobody knows about. I don't know if I'd consider it maybe a talent. I can whistle pretty decent.
Really? Can I hear a little bit right now?
Like I whistling, like I don't show people very much.
Is that how you picked
but
up your wife?
once in a while, yeah, whistling.
That's great. What's a cheesy joke you often tell?
Yeah, I'll sometimes tell my wife, I'll look at her and I'll be like, hey, you want to make like fabric softener and snuggle? It's horrible, right? It's a horrible joke. And she thinks it's horrible too. It never works. But that's the one I know.
Great. Who is one of your role models?
I would say my grandpa was a major role model in my life. His name was Grandpa Willie, and he was incredible and taught me how to love, taught me how to teach, and taught me what it meant to be a man, a priesthood holder, and yeah, I miss him a lot, but he was a huge role model in my life.
Okay. What was, in short form, what was a life-changing experience you had?
Life-changing experience for me was when I was diagnosed with a rare degenerative disease called keratoconus, and I was told I was going to go blind. That was a very, life-changing moment for me.
What's something that you're trying to learn now? A skill or any like knowledge that you're trying to gain, self-improvement?
Yeah, so I am learning how to. I love the circus. I've always loved the circus. It's a little weird, but the circus is amazing, and what the circus used to be and what it represented. And I'm actually building a model circus right now, and so I'm learning how to do that. I'm learning how to like build model stuff. I love it. It's weird. I don't tell anybody that, but that's what I'm doing. It's the truth.
Kind of like a nativity set, but it's like a
Yeah, kind of.
model
Yeah, but
circus.
massive. Yeah, capturing like the old days of circus where literally a city without a zip code would come in overnight and build a massive entertainment central extravagant thing, and then the next day it was gone. And yeah, there's so many things we could talk all day about the circus, but that's what I'm doing. I love it.
You like The Greatest Showman?
Yes, it's an amazing movie, wonderful movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Are you ready to do a cover of one of those songs right now?
Oh, geez, yeah, no one wants to hear that. That's for sure.
Maybe Never Enough.
Yeah. Never enough.
What's a favorite book?
A Million Miles in 1,000 Years.
What was a favorite movie?
I have 3 of my top ones: Rudy, The Legend of Bagger Vance, and Top Gun.
Awesome. In short form, what's a hard experience you've had in the last few years?
I think I quit my job. I quit my 9-to-5 job, and learning how to create and start and manage a business, a company, support a family, business 101, and the entrepreneurial life has been a massive challenge. Yeah.
What is a funny or awkward experience you've had in the last few years? Could be anything.
I was in a movie recently, and a guy came up to me in a restaurant that I was eating at, and he came up behind me and he was like, "I just loved your movie," and I looked up, and I thought it was an old friend. I actually thought it was a singles ward bishop, an old singles ward bishop. And I stood up and I just gave him the biggest hug. And I was like, how are you? And after we hugged, like we separated and he looked at me and I looked at him and I realized I had no idea who he was. He was a complete stranger. And we sat there and just said, you know, good game. Sorry. Like it was so awkward. And I thought it was somebody else and it wasn't. It was like, good job in your movie. And I was like, give me a hug. It was really awkward. But yeah.
That's funny. What's a cause that you're passionate about?
Helping teenagers to live a life by design, not by default. Helping kids to figure out who they are, what they have, and that what they have is enough to be able to go out and be the best for the world. I love that.
Awesome. So, not to be grim here, but when you die, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I wasted and wore out my life in helping other people to see the potential and the ability of what they can become in their life. I want to be known as someone who lived a life of significance, not just a life of success. Someone that focused on their efforts every day and trying to not just be the best in the world, but someone who was actually the best for the world. And what I taught, what I said, how I was as a husband, as a father, and also that I knew God and know that He lives and have a relationship with Him.
Awesome. Good answer. Name every country you've ever visited.
Dubai, Thailand, Australia, the Virgin Islands, Guatemala. Where else? Canada. Outside of the U.S., yeah, that would be them.
Cool. How many of those were the last year?
Quite a few of them. Yeah, quite a few of them. Yeah, been traveling a lot. Africa as well. I didn't mention Africa. Yeah.
Did you go to like the biggest tower in Dubai? Is that in Dubai or UAE?
Yeah, the biggest building in the world is in Dubai. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go on it?
I did.
Is
I
that
went
the
there.
Burj Khalifa?
Yep, that's it. That's
Whatever?
the one. It's huge.
Goes like 50 miles an hour, the elevator, right?
Yep, flies. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome. Great. Just a couple more questions here of the rapid fire survey. What's your favorite fast food?
I love Chick-fil-A fries. So good. But I love Cubby's as well. Cubby's is great. It's a local place here where we live, and I love Cubby's. It's good.
That's great. What's your favorite dinner?
My favorite dinner, like meal,
Yeah,
actual meal.
yeah.
I would say I'm kind of like a steak and seafood, so steak, lobster, crab. I love that. I'm a mac and cheese connoisseur. I love mac and cheese as well. So, but yeah, it's just a good steak and some crab. It's awesome.
Oh, that sounds so good.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's dinner time. Thanks for coming in. What is one of your weaknesses?
I would say one of my biggest weaknesses is always kind of living in tomorrow, always thinking ahead, always planning and strategizing and looking to what's to come. And I think that's a weakness because if you always are living in tomorrow, you'll have a lot of forgetful yesterdays. And so, I don't know, that's what's so cool about what you do, right, in lifey, and helping memories to be remembered, helping experiences to be remembered. And so for me, I've tried to have a more concentrated effort on just being present in the moment and enjoying the moment for what it is and not always looking to tomorrow.
What do you wish people knew about you that most people maybe don't?
I think a lot of people think of me as sometimes like an outspoken, very social person. As a professional speaker, someone who loves the spotlight, loves the limelight. But I love being home. I love the social stuff. I love being with people, but I also love alone time and simplicity. More and more as I've gotten older, I've tried to think of, as my life has sometimes gotten more complex, how I can constantly strive to keep it simple. And so a lot of that is being okay and being content with staying at home and reading a book, or staying at home and watching a movie. Or for me, it's hard to shut it off and to not be so driven and not to be going. And so I do enjoy what some would maybe say a more introverted perspective. And so as extroverted as I am in what I do, I also am very introverted as well. Yeah.
What would you say is would be your life motto if you had to come up with a motto? I don't know if you have a motto or.
Yeah, I think my life motto so far right now has been, it's not about being the best in the world, it's about being the best for the world.
Do you have a favorite motivational speech or speaker that you kind of admire their work that they've done, or maybe a formative, I don't know, a speech that you listened to that was just really powerful or impactful for you when you realized this is what you want to do for others, kind of?
Yeah, I have, I mean, when I was younger, so many, and I think that's why I do a lot of firesides and LDS speaking and church speaking and Christian speaking, is because I had so many of those speakers when I was young that impacted my life so much. One in particular was Troy Dunn, Life is Like a Football Game. That CD, that was for the first time I understood the power of a good orator, like somebody that could tell stories, captivate an audience, build connection. And I never met him. I still have never met Troy Dunn. It's actually on my bucket list. That guy totally changed my life and taught me firsthand what a great speaker is and does, and how they can really influence and change people through the power of words.
Awesome.
Troy Dunn, yeah, he's amazing.
That's awesome. What is something that anyone watching this video could do that would help you? Like, if you could have everyone who watches this video do one thing for you, what would that be?
Oh man, I think one thing that there's power in learning from other people's experiences. I think sometimes we're too busy doing this on our phones. And as great as a connector as that can be, it should never overtake the power and the importance of real connection and one-on-one connection and what that can do. And so I would tell the people that are watching, go to your mom and go to your dad and open up the library. Open up the library to their life and listen to their stories. Listen to their experiences. Ask them what it was like to be in high school. Ask them how they knew that their spouse or their husband or their wife was the one that they were supposed to marry. Ask them what it felt like when they went to college for the first time. Ask them their experiences. They're the people that love you the most. They're the people that have such an impact in your life. And when they're gone, the library's closed. And so, yeah, and I've lost a couple of loved ones, and I think about it at times, and I go, man, what I would give to just have 5 minutes with them. 5 minutes to just say, hey, how are you? What would you do in this situation? Or what advice would you give me? Or, what a powerful moment that would be. And we're with those people all the time, right? We take life for granted. And eventually, you never know when that day comes when that person's not there anymore. And so never take that for granted. Always be learning from the ones that love you the most.
Right. How do you confront fears? Like, I could imagine, you mentioned earlier that you spoke recently at Apple and AT&T at conferences or whatnot. I imagine that must be pretty nerve-wracking / exciting.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get not nervous, or are you always nervous, or how do you confront your fears?
Yeah, I think almost every speech there's a sense of nervousness for me, because I think that, I don't know, and there's some speakers that'll say, I never get nervous, or I do it so much it's just second nature. And for me, I get nervous because I care. Every speech is important, every audience is different, every keynote is different. And so for me, there's always nervousness in that because I don't know how it's going to be received. I don't know how people are going to take it. Am I going to do my job? Because as a speaker, you have such a responsibility to do it right. And people are there and they're giving you their time. What an honor, right? If someone is willing to give you their time. And for me, I've never taken that for granted. And still, it blows me away. And some of my family members and even my wife at times that people would pay to listen to me. And the speaking world is kind of a weird, interesting world in that where people pay, money to listen to what you have to say. And so for me, again, I've never taken that for granted and always make sure that what I say is prepared and thought through and rehearsed and practiced. And even through that, there's still nervousness. But to answer your question, how do I combat fear and nervousness? It's through preparation. It's through doing my part. It's through doing my due diligence to make sure that I have given everything that I can on the front end and on the back end to make sure that when I'm up there on that platform, I've done everything that I can do to prepare for that moment.
Awesome. I think that's great. Cool. Well, I have one more question.
Okay.
Just keep on coming with questions. I love asking questions. You're doing great, Clint. So fast forward 10 years from now, you're just making millions and zillions of dollars. You have more money than you know how to use. Do you have any thoughts of what you'd want to do outside of public speaking to help inspire people to become their best selves? Have you given any thought of anything you might consider doing with your resources to help other people who are less fortunate, or any other causes that you might create? Or
Yeah, I have thought about that for sure. I have something that I've wanted to do and hope to do one day. Flying in my life, we're talking a lot about speaking, but I never wanted to be a professional speaker. I wanted to fly. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. And flying has always been such a love, such a passion. I've always had a hard time keeping my feet on the ground. And that kind of dream is doing that as a profession was taken from me because of my eye disease. And I couldn't fly. I couldn't get a medical. And I didn't have that opportunity. I've had surgery since then that saved my eyesight, but I was done with school and college and was already in another career. And I think ultimately God had another plan, and there was obviously other things that I was supposed to do, which I'm grateful for. But I would love to start a foundation that's called Dream Machines that gives less fortunate, underprivileged children the opportunity to experience flight for the first time and to open up that potential possibility of what it's like to be a pilot, what it's like to fly, what it's like to ride the magic carpet, what it's like to be a bird and to feel that. And what an incredible experience for young people to have, to cherish, and to take with them. And even if they don't become pilots, but just the power of what it means to dream and what it means to live and what it feels like to do something epic in your life. I think more kids need to feel that, experience that, and have those opportunities. And if I can be a catalyst to helping kids to have that experience, then I'm all about it. So.
Awesome. That'd be way cool.
That's the goal.
No, sorry, I thought another question. But what is a dangerous experience you've had? A time where you've almost died?
Well, I was actually flying, and I was in flight school, and my buddy Adam and I were up flying. It was interesting. This might be a little quick story. And could dive into a little bit of vulnerability and failure. I wanted to fly. It was my dream. I went through school, and it was my check ride. Every pilot has a check ride that they go through, and you have a ground test, and then you have a flying test. And so on the ground, your check rider will go through all of the regulations and the laws and the weather conditions and navigation and airport signals and signs and just anything book-wise for aviation. And then you go up and you do the flying part. And all of the flying stuff with the instructor was going amazing. We were doing so well, and I was loving it. And then in the check ride, he pulls the engine. So that means he grabs the throttle, pulls it back, and the engine dies, basically. And the prop's still spinning. It's just a low idle. And he looks over and he says, your engine just died. What are you going to do? And so your mind, you go into your emergency procedures. You go into your checklist. You have all of your thoughts. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. You're getting everything in order. And so I'm going through the checklist. And then I tried to pick a spot to land. And I noticed over on the left was the airport. And so I thought airport, that's where I need to go. And I turned the plane a complete, almost 360 to go back to the runway. And we were dropping altitude and altitude like crazy. And I quickly realized, especially when the check rider realized, that we were not going to make the airport at all. And that I had made the wrong decision. And ultimately, because of that decision, if that would have been a real situation, we both would have died. We both wouldn't have made it. And so he throttled the engine back up and he said, okay, let's take us up. And he looked over and he said, at this point in the check ride, Clint, you failed. And I remember Alex sitting in that cockpit. Like, literally, I was the kid that had every toy helicopter, airplane that you could buy at Toys R Us. Like, it was hanging from my seat. Like, I loved it. And this was the big day where I was going to get my wings. Like, I was going to pass, and I failed. And I remember getting out of the cockpit, and my whole family surprised me. They came to the airport where I was doing the check ride, and they had signs and posters and presents and just to celebrate, because it's a lot of work to become a pilot. And I went up to them and I said, I failed. I failed, and I didn't pass the emergency landing section of the test. And I cried, and it was just, and you felt dumb, you felt ashamed. Nobody wants to fail, especially when you've worked so hard for something. And eventually I studied back up again, and you can retake the test. So the check rider came with me again. We got in the airplane, and we did the procedure. Again, he pulled the airplane back. I made a good decision. I knew what I was supposed to do. I restudied about that, and I eventually passed and became a pilot. But a year after that, my best friend and I, who we both trained together as pilots, we were flying, and all of a sudden, mid-engine, mid-air, my engine quit. Completely stopped. The mixture in the fuel and the air, it was too leaned out, and so the engine choked, and the prop stopped. And I'll never forget sitting in an airplane in the sky, no instructor, no idle throttle. This was the real deal, and that prop just stopped midair. And without hesitation, Adam and I, we looked at each other, and we went right into our training. We went right into exactly what we were supposed to do and how we were supposed to do it. Much of that was because of my failure. It was because I went through that so many times, drilled it in my head, and made sure that I would never mess up on that ever again. And we were close enough to the airport that we actually made an emergency landing. We declared Mayday, and we made an emergency landing on runway 31 without an engine. And we were so lightning focused on our instruments, on our airspeed, where we were at, what we were doing, our glide ratio, how many feet we were dropping, and we made it. And we survived, and at the end we changed a couple things. We enriched the mixture, the prop started again, and we were able to taxi off the airport. But it was just a really pivotal moment where I failed, and but also my life was at risk. But because of the failure, my life was saved. And so that was a time where my life was definitely on the line. But I believe, Alex, that you fail your way to success. And that was a moment that firsthand I experienced myself.
So you landed it without the propellers going.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
We were that close because every pilot knows that when you go into land, or if you have that situation, first thing you do is you pick a spot to land. And we did. That was the first thing we did, is we picked that spot. We knew that we could make it to the airport. We had enough altitude. We knew where we were at, and we decided to make it to the airport. And so we made that decision. And then in going towards the airport, then we started to fix the problem. And we were so lightning focused on making sure that we landed and that we lived to see another day. And we did. And yeah, it was a crazy experience, but because of the failure, I think is a big part of why I'm here today. So,
what's been one of the happiest moments of your career where you just like, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, where you just feel so filled with happiness and you just feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in life? Any moment like that you can think back on?
Yeah, I think for me, when I'm speaking, it's when the kids or the event attendees and they come up and they don't. Everybody's very complimentary. Everybody will always say, "Oh, you're so great," and it was so good. But I love it when the attendees or the kids come up and they tell me what they're gonna do because of the message, because of what they felt, because of what they heard, because of what their spirit, their mind told them. And I've just had some amazing moments that I knew that I was sent there to that event, to that school, to that conference for that one person. And I think for me, what I do in a secular side in my business is so much tied in with the spiritual aspect of why I do what I do. There was a spiritual aspect as to why I quit my job and why I decided to do this. And so when that spiritual affirmation comes from Heavenly Father through me in what I'm doing to help His children and my brothers and sisters, there's just nothing I would rather be doing, right? It comes down to the quote where there's two important days in a person's life: the day you're born and the day you figure out why. And I'm just so blessed and grateful that, for one, I was able to figure out why I was put on this earth, but then two, that because of that, people are blessed. It coincides with your purpose, right? Being able to do something bigger than yourself on a daily basis is a privilege, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity very often. And so I'm really thankful for it.
Awesome. You've alluded to your faith in God a few times in this interview so far, but I was wondering if there's any experience you'd be willing to share briefly of maybe a time when you felt God was there, because there's a lot of people, especially in our age group, who don't think God lives, or who feel like they're just going through life all alone. And I'm sure both of us have probably had experiences where we felt, struggling and alone and weak and whatnot. But I don't know, is there any experience you'd be willing to share, just like a time when you knew that God was there, that He hadn't watching out for you?
Yeah. I mean, there's been many moments where I've had experiences that I could not deny. It wasn't like I got lucky or I was at the right place at the right time. Everything has been planned and orchestrated. I often refer to Heavenly Father, my God, as the great orchestrator, and that He makes a lot more out of our lives than we ever could on our own. There's been times where I've been speaking, and in moments of silence or pausing, as a speaker, it's kind of weird when you do it a lot. There's almost a time where your mouth can keep moving, and then your mind goes on pause, and you're still speaking, but you're thinking, and you're looking at people, and ever so often thoughts come in, and stories, or share this, or speak to this person. Even though I'm speaking to a large audience, this is the person you need to speak to. And what's been so powerful is to see after that person come up, or that story that you were prompted to share was the one that had the biggest impact, or was the one that was the most remembered. And so I'm a big fan, for me, and how I think the Lord works in my life is the power of pondering. A A lot of people say they receive revelation in the morning. For me, it's more of late at night. When I'm sitting and I'm quiet and I'm thinking. And it's in those moments, especially after prayer. I think a lot of people, we sometimes will pray and we end the prayer and then we go to bed, right? Or we end the prayer in the morning and then we go to work. But I think there's just as much power, and at least for me, in how God has communicated in my life and giving me direction, counsel, and brought things to remembrance in my life, is after a prayer, just sitting still. You can end the prayer, or you can just keep the prayer open, right? So instead of saying amen, you just listen and you be still. And then just think and listen to what comes to your mind and think through a problem, think through a situation. I think when we're having that communication with the Lord, when we're opening up that window through prayer to converse and to communicate, so often we're really good at just talking. We're so good at saying what we're grateful for. We're so good at asking for what we need. But do we listen? And we're always so busy. It's the hustle and bustle of life. It's school, it's college, it's tests, it's soccer, it's sports camps, it's baseball, it's tryouts, it's auditions, it's homework, the job that you have. We're so busy with so many different things, and that's not even in coinciding with social media and all the other distractions that we have in our life. But I'm a huge fan of the power of being still and then listening. I think that helps us to know God more so. And in doing so, that's where the directions come. That's where a thought's happened, and that's where an idea's come to place, or a person has come to mind, and the Holy Ghost has really worked through me to help me to know where I should go, what I should do, and why I'm doing it.
Great. What do you, what's something that you wish would change in the world? Like a way that the world works that you don't agree with, that you kind of wish it operated differently?
I wish kids believed in themselves more. I wish that kids and youth would understand how amazing and how much worth they have to offer. I see it as a professional youth speaker and someone who speaks at thousands of kids and hundreds of different audiences every year. So many kids don't believe in themselves. So many kids struggle with anxiety. So many kids struggle with depression. So many kids struggle with suicidal thoughts, and that they're not good enough, or that they'll never be good enough, or they compare themselves to things that are full of filters and fake photos and not real life. And in doing so, their worth is deteriorated. But on the flip side, contrary to that, though, I wish that every youth, every young person would find or could find that special someone that believed in them. That believed in them and saw them for who they are, and also saw them for what they could be. Every kid is one success story away from carrying somebody. And when we have somebody in our lives that always believes in us, is there, and helps us to constantly remember our worth, our potential, what we can do, where we can go, what we can become, you live life differently. Kids live life differently. William Damon out of Stanford did a study with youth and purpose and found that only 20% of kids have a clear definition on purpose in their lives. So that leaves us with 80% of kids that don't have that. But what they found in the study is they said, let's focus on the 20% of kids that do. And they found that the number one contributing factor as to how teenagers found significance and purpose in their life was the association and connection with other purposeful people. So people like good mentors, good parents, a good young men's leader, a good young women's leader, a good coach, a good friend. Right? It's classic Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn always said you become the average of the 5 people that you associate with most. But if young people could find those people and give those people the opportunity to believe in them, our world would be a better place. We all need someone to believe in us, and in doing so, we gain the fortitude and the ability to believe in others. And some people might be watching this and say, well, I don't have somebody that believes in me, or I don't have somebody that builds me up or shows me my potential. I could never go to my parents. My friends aren't like that. My school teachers aren't like that. Then to those people and to the people that are watching, I would say to you, then you go and you be somebody that believes in other people. You go and you instill that belief in others. You build people up. You show people their potential and their worth. And in doing so, if you believe in enough people, eventually people will believe in you. And it's a big thing that we're lacking sometimes in this world. And we try so hard sometimes to figure out what's wrong with people. My challenge would be to try to figure out what's right with a person. And when you do that, you view the world in a different lens, you live life differently, and you become better because of it.
Awesome. What's something you really admire about your wife?
Oh, my wife, Kelly, she's so awesome. I love her. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, for sure. Her tenacity and ability to do hard things inspires me on a daily basis. She has got more grit and determination in her pinky than most people do in their whole body. And it inspires me. I love the Spitfire. I love the grit. I love the drive. I love the ability that she has to push herself to do things that she's maybe not comfortable with or afraid of, or would deem as scary or not sensible. And I think that's what's made her as talented and amazing as she is she's gotten really good at doing things that she doesn't always want to do. And I think the more that people can do that, you just become better. And so I love her for that, and that drive pushes me. When you have two people that challenge themselves and push themselves, it just creates a bar and a standard in our marriage that we strive for excellence, but also we learn to laugh at the times that we fall flat on our face, and when we're not perfect, and when we're struggling, or when we're, and she's helped me in our business. She works with me. She's equally partnered in our success, and I couldn't do it without her. She leads the way, and I try to keep up and follow.
Awesome. So I've got kind of I've got lots of random questions,
Okay, great.
as you have seen. But
Cool.
So when I first met you about, I don't even know if it was a year ago, a half year ago, I can't keep track of time, but I remember having this really interesting feeling that you're going to do some really cool things with your life, which was a unique feeling that I haven't had with many people. So I want you to tell me the future a little bit. So by that, I mean, let's look forward 10 years from now and tell me what you will do over the next 10 years. How do you see your career kind of going? Do you imagine you'll be public speaking for the next 10 years, 20 years? Just show me a little bit of a glimpse of the future of kind of your life's work and where you see it going.
Yeah, that's a good question. I hope to speak forever, whether it's in my own home, in my church, in my, not that I'm some amazing speaker, but it's something that God has blessed me with in some form, but also I feel it as a purpose and part of why I'm here. I hope I die speaking in a high school auditorium and I just pass out and have a heart attack and I'm speaking to kids. That might be a little weird for the kids, but I hope to keep always doing that. I think one thing too that sometimes can and cannot, I don't know, this is always a touchy subject because some people might disagree with this, but I think that when your needs are met, you're so much more willing to give, I think, at times. And that can be spiritually, physically, emotionally. So one of our goals, my wife and I, is to be completely debt-free. So on a secular financial standpoint, to have no house debt, to have no college debt, to have no And right now we've narrowed it down to just our home right now, and we're working really hard to do that. And I think that when you're debt free and you're not like the scriptures say, slave to the lender, that you have that freedom. You have that freedom to not worry about making ends meet, and you're not worried about living paycheck to paycheck and making sure the bills are paid for. It's amazing when you have no debt what the average family can live off of. It's not a lot of money. And I think that sometimes we look at debt or a job as we've got to get a good job so we can make lots of money so that we can provide, which is great and is true. But it's not so much about how much you make, it's more about how much you spend. And so I think having that debt-free ability to be able to take that money, that instead of putting it towards a car or a boat or a home, we're able to put that into other things that help to drive significance in the lives of others. And so Kelly and I know that is a big goal for us and something that we are striving to do. I'm working on 3 books right now that will hopefully be some great legacy pieces that will continue to share that message and will continue to grow that reach and to help other people. I think the foundation of going for dream machines and having aviation come back into my life has always been a positive and exciting thing that I would love to be a part of. And then I've always told myself I would love to end up in the classroom as a teacher. I think either teaching seminary or something on the gospel side of being able to be an educator. I think there's something appealing. I want to pick up falconry again. I did falconry when I was in high school. I love animals. I'm allergic to animals, but I'm not a lot allergic to birds. So I did falconry in high school. And as I got older and busier, that takes a lot of time. But as things maybe slow down, this is maybe in the 40-year plan. But yeah, falconry, that'd be cool. People that are watching this are like, what is going on? He's all over the place. But yeah, there it is.
You're doing great. Well, cool. If you could give any advice to an aspiring entrepreneur, as far as like the keys to find success, let's say. You've talked a lot about significance, which I know is important to you. But what do you think are some of like a few actionable, specific things that someone could do and apply to like any pursuit to kind of be successful, or what's made the biggest difference in your life to find success in public speaking?
Yeah. I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to do the entrepreneurial life and to build and to grow and to develop and to take those risks and to put it all out there and to build and to dream more while you're awake and do the things that an entrepreneurial lifestyle has that's so appealing, I would say to those people, design. Be good at designing, and within that design, get specific. The power of whether someone is successful in business or not, I think, comes down to the details and how well they've thought through specific things. There are ways to de-risk any situation to the point where it's almost impossible to fail. And for me, thinking through that process, I came from a career where I had the 9-to-5, a regular job, and I was not doing what I loved. I was not doing what I was meant to do while I was here on this earth. And a big part of that was a quote that was shared to me by Oscar Wilde that says, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. For most people merely exist, and that is all." If you are taking the leap into the entrepreneurial lifestyle, you are getting the opportunity to live in a way that most people don't have the opportunity to do. But with that, living takes risk and chance, and scary things can happen, right? That's why a lot of people don't do it. But you'll never work another day in your life, because what you're doing, if it falls within line of what I'm going to talk about here in just a second, if you do these 3 things If you find something that allows you to do these three things, you'll never work another day in your life. You will live. You will do the rarest thing in the world. And so for me, I call it the power of becoming the anomaly. The word anomaly means something that's rare, something that doesn't happen very often, something that most people just don't get to witness. It's just something that's not of ordinary in nature. And so the anomaly factor is, it happened actually out of chance. I was with two of my friends. We were sitting down at a restaurant, and out of frustration, I asked them, wouldn't it be crazy if you could find one job that allowed you to do these three things? And so the first thing was, what if it allowed you to, number one, do what you love most of the time? What if it allowed you to do what you were fulfilled by? What if it allowed you to play to your passions? And if you were to do something like this, at the end of the day, you're not tired, you're more fulfilled because of it. So to think of what those things are, what that looks like, whether it's rock climbing, it's fishing, it's hunting, it's sports, it's basket weaving, it's scrapbooking, it's social media, whatever just lights you up inside, what you love. So one job that allowed you to do that. And then second, the job also allowed you to provide for yourself financially in a way that was sufficient for your needs. I've met a lot of people, Alex, that do what they love. Mm-hmm. But within that same sentence, a lot of them can't pay their bills. And they're literally living paycheck to paycheck, and they're worried about, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to put dinner on the table? How am I going to provide? How am I going to save for a 401k? How am I going to set myself up to be okay when I retire? There's so much worry to that it almost sucks the fun and the significance of doing what you love out of the whole equation. And so the power is that comes, again, when I talk about being specific, is figuring out, okay, financially for you, what is that? What does that look like? And I did that through the power of a budget. I got super specific on saying, what does it take for me to live in 1 month? For 1 month, what do my expenses look like? I'm talking food, insurance, your gas utility bill, your mortgage or your rent, your car payment, gas, food, all the basic necessities in 1 month of what I spend, and then look at that and see what that looks like, and then figure out if it's too much, how can I take away that allows me to do something more? And then are you okay with that? Some people, they're not okay with that. Some people, they got to have a nice house on the hill with 4 Lamborghinis in the garage. But some people are okay living in a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown New York to do what they love, right? It's all relative into what you feel and what you think that is. The whole purpose of why we're talking about this is to get specific on what that is. What does that look like? So going back again, a job that allows you to do what you love. Second, provides financially in a way that's sufficient for your needs. And then third, what if it could contribute to your purpose in life? What if it allowed you to, on a daily basis, do something bigger than yourself? We talked first about passion. Passion is very much about you. It's what you love to do. But what purpose is about doing something for the world, doing something bigger than yourself. And that's what matters. I love that movie, The Sandlot. You've seen The Sandlot? You got all these kids, they're playing this baseball game, and they hit that ball over the fence, and they've lost the ball that's signed by Babe Ruth. And they're trying to figure out how to make it happen and how to get the ball back. And in the movie, Benny, one of the main characters, he has a dream. And in the dream, Babe Ruth appears. Like the man, like the real Babe Ruth appears to him in the dream. And in the dream, he looks at him and he says, in his departing words as they leave, he said, "Heroes get remembered and legends never die." I had that teacher in my life that changed my life with a pair of drumsticks, Mr. Jensen. I would say heroes don't get remembered. Mr. Jensens never die. When you live a life of significance where every day it's about other people, every day it's about being the best for others, that lasts. That is something that has longevity. That is something that will get you up in the morning. Because I don't care how passionate you are. I don't care how much money or how less or how not a lot of money you have. If you have purpose, it outweighs everything else. And so find one job, one thing, your business, your entrepreneurial dream, and make sure it's focused around those three things and allows you to do that. I think those are the three biggest things that are the biggest factors in creating success.
So I think I just have maybe like 3 more questions. I think we'll probably finish up. I appreciate you doing this, Clint. You're doing awesome. So what is something that you think most people do that they shouldn't be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's something that is limiting people's potential that people typically do, the typical person does, or that you just see all the time people doing, but, if you could shake them by the shoulders and be like, hey, don't do that. That's messing your life up. Or, I don't know, anything along those lines.
Yeah.
You could call the world to repentance.
I would say just the power of time management, right? How do you use your time? I think the average human checks their email like 50 times a day. That they look and they're searching new emails. If you take the time that you spend opening up emails, looking at Facebook, looking at Instagram, watching other people live their dreams, and if you were to take all of that time in 1 week and put it towards something that you're trying to build or do, it's amazing how quickly it adds up. I would recommend only check your email 3 times a day. Check it in the morning, check it midday, and check it at night. Try it. Seriously, give it a go. Same thing with Instagram and Facebook. For me in my life, it's something that I'm still trying to work on, but it's the power of 3. So Instagram, it's only in the morning, midday, and at night. Because it's easy to get on there and scroll and scroll and scroll and like and comment and scroll some more. And before you know it, a whole hour has gone by. Like so much time. And so many people, they're constant, I just don't have time. I don't have time to do this. I can't, I've got a million things going on already. And so look for those things that you can cut out and you can kind of manage a little bit better. On my phone, I put a timer that goes off midday and kind of tells me, okay, if you want to check emails, Instagram, Facebook, whatever that you need to check on, this is your time to do it. And then I give myself an allotted time. It's about 15 to 20 minutes to check and answer all my emails, to look at Facebook, Instagram, to answer messages, to do that part of my life. And then I'm done. I'm done and I'm back to work and I'm focused on things that are going to help grow my significance in life. So I would say that. Give it a go. Take an inventory on how much you check social media, email, and do things that just don't matter just because it's there and it's accessible. Cut that out and see how more productive you can become.
So along the same vein, if I understand what you said correctly, it's basically to like not waste time, try to actively pursue your productive goals and whatnot. What is like one thing that you think makes a difference that people can do daily to help them achieve their potential, besides not wasting time?
I would say showing gratitude is the first thing that comes to my mind. I am who I am and have been able to do what I've done because of other people. Because other people believed in me, because other people supported me, like you, Alex, you're a great example of that. Other people that have shown me my potential, people that have given their time to help me to become better. And so to answer your question, I would say gratitude. And especially in the entrepreneurial mindset of what we're trying to talk about today. And when you're building something and you're trying to learn and you're trying to grow and you're trying to develop, it requires so much learning. It requires so much information to make so much of it happen. And you guarantee you ask any successful entrepreneur, none of them did it by themselves. They always had other people that helped them. And so if you have the attitude of gratitude and you're willing to give back and say thank you, so many people that have helped me in my life, I've always tried to return the favor. It's got to be a win-win. I call it win-win or no deal. If someone's willing to help me, then buy them lunch. If they're willing to do something kind for you, write them a thank you card, send them a gift card, write them an email. Have that attitude of gratitude. So many times, especially my generation as the millennials, we get nicknamed as this generation that's so entitled and that we expect so much. And I do think that we expect a lot, but that doesn't give us the reasoning and the opportunity to not show or reciprocate that gratitude. And everybody just wants to feel important. Everybody just wants to feel recognized and acknowledged. And so if you have a little more gratitude in your life, it's amazing how many more people are willing to help you, how better you feel about yourself. And it's just an important thing in life. Be thankful. Say thank you and show it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
I think we might just have one more question.
Okay.
Unless there's anything else, that
No,
comes
this
to
has
mind that
been
you want
great.
to share, but this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you being willing to do this. So let me share with you a little bit of I want you to counsel me and give me advice.
Okay.
So this is the selfish portion of the video. So I have a desire to change the world. Like I want to, by the time I die, I want to have influenced hundreds of millions of people in a meaningful way. I've had a few inspired ideas that I feel are inspired. A few of them are YouTube projects. Particularly, I feel like there's a lot of potential in this Lifey app thing, which would be kind of like a video forum Wikipedia thing that I just think could be super useful for just about anyone. What advice or pep talk could you give me? Because I know that I've got a long, if I'm going to achieve that vision I have, particularly the vision I have for the app, and I have a goal for the app to have 100 million users a month eventually. But I'm giving myself like a decade to get to that. What's a pep talk you could give to me or advice to just like help give me some extra fuel in my tank to push through the next 10 years and burn the midnight oil or whatever, so to speak, to make a difference? I don't know. Any advice you can give to me?
Yeah, that's a I don't know, and that's why you're so good, Alex, is and that's why so many people watch these and follow you and what you're doing, because your heart's in it. I've seen that as I've worked with you and been around you, and you're doing what you love, and there's nothing more inspiring than somebody that literally is wasting and wearing out their life in what they love, but also in leaving something behind and doing something better for other people. And what you've done with Lifey is you've given people the opportunity to leave that behind, to leave that legacy, to create those stories, and to make sure those stories are heard. You've helped on the call to serve side of the business to allow missionaries to be amped and jazzed and to get advice from people that have walked the steps that they're about to do. Like, you've lived your whole life around that, and that's what you exemplify. And it's commendable, because sometimes so many people would rather say, no, I want the money and the big house and the cars and the security, and the other stuff I'll find in other ways, or my family, or I'm a good parent, or, and those things are so important as well. But you've devoted everything you have to that. So first and foremost, acknowledging that simple fact is, I think, important. The other thing I would say is going back to the anomaly factor of those three things. Is what you are doing, is it contributing to that? Are you full of passion? Does it enthrall you? Does it ignite you? Are you able, because of this, to provide financially for your family in a way that's sufficient for not just your needs, but your wife's needs and your children's needs, your future children's needs? Is that sufficient? Because there's a lot of people, like I have some actor friends that they want to act, but they can't afford braces for their children, or they can't take their kids to Disneyland, or there's the balance, right? It's the balance of the give and take and being willing to maybe do some things that you don't want to do, but in reality it provides financially in a way that's more sufficient for the needs of your home and for your family. So think through that. And then purpose, I think what you're doing is massively significant to your purpose. And if that's what God has asked you to do, well, then again, it comes back to listening and figuring out, okay, then how do I make this a win-win for he and I, but then also for your family? Because if you benefit and even live a legacy, but you lose your family, or you're not providing for them in a way that is sufficient for them, again, that's what it's, so many of us, it all comes back to family. It comes back to, as much as we talk about the entrepreneurial life and living that life, and family is where it is at. And if you don't have your family with you, if you can't rally around your family, then, and you don't have your family rallying around you, then that's something to definitely think about and to pray about and to talk about. For me and my wife, our motto in our marriage is win-win or no deal. It has to be a win-win or it's no deal. And then last thing outside of that is find other people that are doing what you're doing. And there might not be someone that's doing exactly what you're doing, Alex. I have a feeling that there really isn't. But trying to find people that are living like you're living, doing what you're doing, they're in the trenches. But I would almost try to find more of the success stories of that and do whatever it takes to learn from them. Do whatever it takes to associate with greatness. You become the average of the 5 people that you associate with, learn from, work with, talk with, communicate, listen from, mentor with. Surround yourself with those people and be willing to do whatever it takes to be with them, to associate with them. I wanted to be a professional speaker. I went and found not just people that said that they spoke. I found the best of the best. One of them, his name was Mark Sharonbrock. He is a hero. He's the godfather of the youth speaking industry, and he's an incredible corporate speaker, an amazing person. And I said, I want to be like that. I want to do what he's done. And I figured out how to meet him and how to call him and how to connect with him. And he has become a great mentor. And I've never paid him a dime. We just linked up. I had an attitude of gratitude. Anytime he helps me, he gets a letter, a handwritten letter. He gets a gift card. I do whatever I can to just thank you, thank you, thank you. Gratitude is such a wonderful way of currency and exchange. And so find your Mark Sharonbrocks. Find the people that have done what you're doing, done what you want to do, or are at that point, and do whatever it takes to learn from them, grow from them. That's how you de-risk a situation. They've done and gone through things that hopefully you won't have to experience. Mentorship is key. And again, go for the best. My philosophy is go to the people that seem untouchable, that seem out of grasp or out of connection, and just figure it out. Figure out how to do that. You're 24 hours away from anybody in this world. Anybody. So go to those lengths to associate yourself with greatness.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Clint.
You're welcome.
Well, any final words?
No, I just appreciate it. And my gosh, if anybody watched this all the way through, I'm sorry, and we'll send you a refund. But I appreciate the time a lot and the chance to do this. And hopefully it helped somebody and is of somewhat beneficial. So I appreciate it, Alex, a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Clint.
Yep.
You're the man.
You're welcome. Thanks.